In the last podcast we did, we were talking about how EV subsidies are really pushing a lot of those people to buy EVs, and they got rid of that.
Yeah.
What's been the impact now that they got rid of the $8,000 tax credit?
Yikes. I mean, EV sales absolutely plummeted at the end of last quarter. I think there's been a couple of interesting impacts. EV sales done. Like, it's hard to justify buying the cars at the price points they're at without some huge subsidy. That's not as true of the high-end EVs, which were not really covered by the subsidy in the first place. And so like Rivian and stuff seem to be doing about as well as they were. But your Teslas and your Mach-E's and your, these cars, it then comes down to the responsibility of the manufacturer to discount the car to a market correct price. And often that means they can't justify making it anymore. And so very quickly, several EVs were canceled immediately, brought off the market. And that's like the market factor. Something else we talk about a lot on our podcast is I'm always very disappointed. I don't want to get political, but I'm disappointed at the removal of the EV subsidies. I like gas cars. I own 6-7 gas cars. I don't have an EV. However, the rest of the world is clearly ramping up on EVs. And I worry that by removing these subsidies, even though right now it means we can all buy the V8s we wanted, I definitely worry that in the global economy, America is falling behind. And I want America to win. And to me, like letting China, who is heavily subsidizing their EVs, continue to make technological leaps while America kind of rests on its laurels with V8s and things. Right now, it seems cool. In 20 years, it's not going to seem cool.
My understanding that with China, they're putting a lot of emphasis in battery technology that we're not quite doing here.
And a lot of that emphasis is because the Chinese government is subsidizing car manufacturers to unbelievable degrees. And so the result of that is that there's huge incentives for these companies to develop cars, to develop technology, and to sell these cars. And China is going global. China's selling in Canada now. China's selling in Mexico now. They're already all over Europe. You can't walk around Mexico and not see 20, 30 Chinese cars everywhere you're walking around. There are Chinese cars everywhere now. And that could have been America if we had played our cards right. And that makes me anxious, for sure.
How good are Chinese EVs actually?
They're pretty good. We've had a few in the office. I've reviewed maybe 4, and they don't suck. Like, you think of Chinese stuff as kind of crappy, right? Like, you think of it as like lesser.
The thing growing up, it's like, oh, this is made in China.
Made in China. It's going to break next week.
Yeah. That's not the case. The EVs were here. We had the SU7, which is like one of the big Tesla rivals in China. And we looked at what the price comparison is and the performance comparison and the features, and it's like, there's no reason you would buy a Tesla in China.
So it's that much better than a Tesla?
And part of the reason is because there are huge government subsidies on the price point. And so they're able to sell these cars you can't compete with that. You literally cannot compete. But like, yeah, it's as good or better than a Tesla at a lot less money. Why would you not buy Tesla?
Isn't that, though, because they also stole a lot of the IP from Tesla and they copied it and they saved a whole bunch of R&D?
Maybe.
And then they just copied
it. Although electric cars at their core are not as complicated.
Yes.
And China has gone above and beyond what any other automakers have done. Like there are Toyota 4Runner style EVs in China. There are crazy EV supercars that can jump,
Yeah.
Like they are on a completely different, whether that was true or not, like they are now pushing in a new frontier that I definitely wish that I was seeing Chrysler and General Motors getting into, because I worry that we're going to see another like big auto industry decline in 30 years when eventually, finally, the floodgates open for China, or America just tries to continue to compete on a global scale and we can't do it anymore.
So what would it take to import a China EV car here?
If the automaker did it, there's like 100% tariff on Chinese cars, so they can't justify it right now. So there's essentially no Chinese cars for sale in the United States. The only thing that would realistically happen for that to change is the government would have to change. I mean, no one's got 100% margin, and even then, you're also coming up against some pretty significant political headwinds. There's a lot of Americans who don't want to buy a Chinese product. We talked about this on our pod a couple weeks ago. Like ultimately, you can't. It's different than when Korea showed up with the Hyundais in the 80s. Like Americans, I think, were probably neutral about Korea. Americans aren't neutral about China. So not only do you have this product that is 100% tariffed, but then you also have to convince people that China is not the enemy. And people in the States are pretty hard-coded to believe that China is the enemy. So that's a tough thing to fight against. But I'll tell you, you go to Mexico where cost is a much bigger factor in vehicle purchases. They're buying Chinese cars. Like they look at these things and they're looking at the numbers and the horsepower and the electric range, and they're like, I'm just going to buy. It's cheaper. It's affordable. I'm going to do it.
So I'm curious, though, speaking of range, why can't we get EVs past 500 miles?
Yeah. I mean, there's probably battery limitations. This goes too technical for me. There's probably but I will also say one of the things I've discovered is talking to the automakers at all the press launches is that there's not actually demand for it. Like you think there would be.
I would think there would be.
I drive every summer. I drive the East Coast and back, and I'll do 1,200 miles in a day. I would love a 1,200 mile EV, but most people don't do that. And what they're finding is that in order to get those extra, even above 350, in order to get those extra miles, there's a significant cost component. There's a significant weight component that you then have to engineer against, right? You have to make the car faster. And as a result of that, and then you're basically making a luxury car. You have to because of the added cost of more batteries. People don't really need it. There are some people who do. But I think the automakers would kind of consider them fringe people. And with EVs, you kind of have to go after the middle of the bell curve because the bell curve's already pretty small. Like I think it'd be cool as hell if someone came out with, like 1,000-mile EV. I would buy it. But how many other people would? And how many people would spend what that would cost?
Sure. And what do you think the impact is going to be now that silver prices are hitting like $115 an ounce on batteries?
What an unusual business to be in, having to figure out pricing these vehicles where you not only have to figure out suppliers and tariffs, but also metals. I'm curious what effect that'll have for sure. The automakers can never really be as dynamic with pricing as they wish they could be to account for things like that. But you have to assume that'll be another thing that increases prices.
Yeah, imagine dynamic pricing that changes by the day depending on what the metals are worth within the car.
The automakers would kill for it, right? But people would be up. I mean, it'd be insane.
Or like peak pricing at 4th of July pricing is like a little more, and then Black Friday sale demand goes up. It just changes a little bit.
Why can't they adjust prices that quickly?
I presume that. Well, for one thing, it's difficult for advertising. I mean, messaging and advertising. You got to tell the people this is what it costs. People would also just generally be up in arms, not knowing what the thing is
like
worth.
The stock market, trying to figure out the best price to buy.
Right. I think there's also regulatory components to it too. I mean, the automaker has to print the window sticker by law and stick on the thing the actual price of the car. I mean, I guess they could update that daily, but then you get into kind of a menu prices thing. Like you really have to then be adjusting all sorts of crap. But mostly, I think people just wouldn't put up with it. I think they would just go buy the rival who they know what the price is.
Now, by the way, quick thanks to our sponsor, CyberGhost VPN, for sponsoring this video.
CyberGhost is one of the most trusted VPNs out there with over 38 million users worldwide and over 20,000 strong reviews on Trustpilot.
Using a VPN is one of the simplest ways to protect your online privacy. Like a lot more eyes are watching your online activity than you think.
And of course, even incognito mode does not stop it. Your internet provider, your work or school network, and even your home Wi-Fi router can still track what you're doing.
CyberGhost helps by encrypting your online data and running it through their secure servers. You just pick from over 100 locations before you browse.
It also lets you access geo-restricted games and content from over 40 streaming platforms, including Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+. And here's a little special sauce I'll sprinkle on top. Changing your location can actually help you find better deals online.
CyberGhost works on all major devices like Mac, Apple, iOS, and Android, and you could protect up to 7 devices at the same time.
And guys, if you're thinking about it, using our link in the description gets you their absolute best deal at $2.03 per month, plus 4 months for free, which is 84% off.
They also offer a 45-day money-back guarantee, so it's risk-free to try it out. We like it enough to recommend it to all of you watching.
Once again, the link is down below in the description. Thank you so much to CyberGhost for sponsoring this episode.